Good morning. Good morning. How we all doing?
That song
Morning.
brings that song brings me to horse shows because it's on the girls' hype list.
Oh yeah.
For one of the songs they play before they're getting ready to go on the rink. So it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Came up on my playlist this morning. Screenshot. Hey, this would be good for morning call. So that was all of an hour ago that got decided. So glad it brought a smile to your face, Lauren. Anybody else have some good vibes to share? What's going good? Margareta.
Good morning. I just want to say thank you. Based on that lead about the insurance company, that actually worked. So very grateful for that. I guess sober houses are tough, and it's a new industry for this market. I guess in general, and not too many insurance companies do want to get in it. There's very few that do it. So I appreciate the help with that.
Now, which one ended up working out, Margareta? Was it the one with the website where that's what they do is help people set them up?
So because that one, the website one, because it's more local and I think it will be cheaper. Obviously, the one that's Lloyd's, that would work as well. And it sounds like it's one of the insurances that the bank has carried before with. So I guess when it all fails, that's the one to go for. But it's obviously more expensive and more complicated probably to get into. um and but this particular company, the one from the website, I forget what the name was. They were very responsive, like literally, I have to call, I emailed them and called them, and they got back to me within a half an hour, and very on top of it. And I talked to the guy, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of a new industry, insurance companies don't get it. But it's a growing industry, I guess. That's the key to say. I mean, there's going to be more and more retirement kind of houses, probably, and medical facilities as baby boomers and society in general evolves.
So is your deal going to stay together? That's the final question.
That's the key. So,
Yeah.
well, we'll know by Tuesday because there has to
All
go
right.
on for the underwriting. But we're submitting all the paperwork, and at least it's the
Awesome.
valid thing. That's the key, because everybody else would be okay insuring the business, but not the property. I guess that's the caveat to it.
Good. Good. I'm glad it all
Yeah.
worked out. Anybody else have something to share? I think we're kind of transition right into what's going weird with your real estate deal. That was a weird one. That we got solved right here in the morning call. So love when that happens. Who else has got something? Steve.
So I have a showing scheduled for today at noon, and this is the first time this is gonna be happening to me. So I did it through showing time, and then it says the tenants will let you in. So I reached out to the listing agent again, and it was like, so they're gonna just to confirm they're gonna be the one to, like, yep, just knock on the door and they'll give you a tour and ask them any questions you have. And I was like, it's a little odd, usually on my short experiences, they kind of leave the premises so that we can, have our privacy and walk through and talk about it. And so I wasn't sure if you had any advice on this scenario, how to handle that. Because it sounds like these homeowners, it's a condo, they're going to be there and they're going to be lingering.
Lauren.
Yeah, so Steve, in a situation like this, a lot of the prep work is going to be between you and your client. Okay. So letting them know that the situation that we're going into is not typical of what we will be experiencing at most showings that we go to, that the tenants or the owners are going to be in the property while we're there. And while normally we'd be able to openly converse about everything we were seeing, we liked, we didn't like in the property, in this instance, I think it's going to be a lot safer if we walk through the property. We don't really want to show them either way our cards and what we're thinking. We'll save all that sort of for negotiations if it's something you want to move forward on. So we'll go look at the property, right? And then we'll plan a time to discuss kind of what we think about it afterwards. So just setting those expectations for it.
Yeah,
Good
I
stuff.
mean that's my thought, that I wasn't sure if there was some other, conversation I could have with the listing agent, but it sounds like the sellers obviously are driving this one and they just feel comfortable with all their personal belongings. So I had that conversation with my buyers and kind of gave them the heads up, like this is not going to be like the others that we've seen. And they thought it was weird too, but you know, I told them it is what it is. They get to set the terms and exactly what you said. I said, kind of, we don't want to be saying anything that shows any of our hand or, you know, so we kind of discussed that already. So I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, so much more common, you'll see this with like for sale by owner properties, right? Where the owner is going to be there. Dealt with a lot of those. And so it's not completely weird, but less common.
Anybody have any questions that they like to ask when you've got a seller there when you get into these scenarios? Carolina.
I feel like sometimes it's nice to have the seller there, or like even when listing agents are there to accompany, because you can get all your questions answered. And sometimes it actually helps the buyer be more interested in the property because they're getting more information. Can't look at everything negatively, that it's going to be awkward. Like it can be very well awkward, but it could also be helpful.
Any specific questions that are coming to mind, Carolina, or anybody else that wants to? Because I agree, it can be awkward if you let it be awkward, right? And if we can create it into a win-win, you know, we might be able to actually pull some information out. Nicole.
I was just going to say kind of off, a little bit off topic, not so much when the sellers are there, but just the conversation of when to actually discuss the property, because a lot of properties now have cameras. I've even had sellers who say, hey, I was listening in, I saw them on the camera and I was listening, they sound really interested, they were standing in the kitchen for 20 minutes talking. So we just always want to be aware, because a lot of people have cameras or recording devices in their house right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to disclose that stuff, but I highly doubt all of that is getting disclosed. So obviously you guys got to be asking those questions if you're taking listings, and we've got to disclose that. You got to post it on the listing. In some states, you even got to post it on the door before they get in. So KB.
Yeah, I think it definitely is not ever posted on the door, but definitely make sure that you guys are making the clients aware, because a lot of times they're not reading those disclosures. But in regards to different things that you can talk to the seller about, if you have the seller or their agent there, is just getting some detailed on systems, right? So it's a good opportunity to talk to them about, you know, how long ago the roof got put in, and when was your furnace or boiler serviced, and, you know, ask them those type of questions. And then some of the questions that we as real estate agents really can't answer is like, what do you love about your neighborhood? Or what's your favorite thing about this property? And sometimes the seller is able to point out some things that, you know, one, we can't point out, and two, we wouldn't know. So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, some of the things that come to mind, just, hey, what made you fall in love with this place? Why did you buy it? Something like, hey, are there any quirks about the property that we need to know about? You know, have you experienced any issues with the property? You know, so it's an opportunity to maybe get some stuff out of them that's not in the listing. Christina.
Than any. I just wanted to say, like, the way, even through this conversation right here, the way that we prep our agents is is incredible. Lately I've been dealing with some agents that, you know, come from other brokerages, and no shade, no hate to anyone else at all. But just the simple conversation that we're having right here, right now, you come off so much more confident and knowledgeable as a brand new agent than I've seen from some seasoned agents in the industry. And so I just wanted to kind of comment on that, because that's what this made me think of this morning. So
Awesome. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to level everybody up, right? All are welcome. This industry is going to get professionalized. So it starts here every morning. It's getting the conversations right. Margaretta.
So I think actually when you have somebody who's an owner and you ask them a question, they will usually tell you more than an agent will, because they don't do this on a daily basis. And they will reveal things that most agents would not, because they know better what to say or not. So actually having an owner there will give you, if you just let them talk and just ask very open questions, open-ended questions, it will allow you to find more about the property than you ever would have. So it's a good thing, actually, sometimes. Just be nice to them, they'll be nice to you.
I mean, KB kind of hit like on the systems, any recent renovations that you're proud of, or let them boast about the property a little bit.
And I think that's something that probably, hopefully, doesn't have to be said, but like no negativity. Don't walk in there and be like, oh, that paint color is horrible. Right? No negativity, because if you do love the house but you hate the paint color, you don't want to insult the seller while you're in there by hating on their yellow walls.
Nicole.
Sometimes it can help too, because I've had situations where my sellers are late leaving the house for a showing or whatever. And then when we get offers, they'll say like, oh my gosh, I met them in the driveway. They were so sweet. And so they know who these people are when they get the offer, which can actually go a long way when they have multiple offers.
Yep.
Especially with no more love you letters.
I think the other thing, I don't know if somebody might have been KB touched about like, the neighborhood and stuff like that. As agents, we're not really supposed to talk about that, but if the seller wants to talk about that stuff, right? Hey, we were thinking about this neighborhood, but we were concerned about the noise level of the highway. How is it? Just see what they say, and what do you love about the area? What drew you to this area? So yeah, I guess the other thing that just kind of goes hand in hand with this that we should talk about is when you've got accompanied showings. Whether you're the listing agent, why don't we start with that? When you're the listing agent, does anybody have any just kind of tips or how you handle that? Your seller, you take the listing, seller says, I want you there for all the private showings, right? We might have some people on the call that have never done that, or they've only done it a few times, or they've never been guided on this. So anybody have any tips that they want to share when you have to do accompanied showings? Christina Avian.
I've had that before, where I was on the listing side, and essentially, I met the client and their agent at the house, and I gave them like a quick overview upon the welcome. And then I let them kind of do their own thing and explore, because I hate as an agent on the buyer side, like feeling like the list agents like, taking over the tour. So I let them kind of do their own thing, look around, and then as they were walking, if there was, something that I found interesting about a certain section of the house, or I thought they would want to know, I kind of would just say, this, that, and the third, or I would make a comment regarding that. But I definitely gave them like their space and independence, because I never wanted the buyer's agent to feel like I was just trying to, overpower them.
Yeah, I think it's a great first point. That is, it's not warm and fuzzy when you feel like the other person is trying to take over, or is even trying to like communicate with your client more than you. That always just feels a little weird. So I agree. Let's give a couple of highlights, maybe some information that wasn't in the listing that you'd like them to know about, and then give them some space. KB.
Yeah, I think I've done this a couple times, and I think the biggest thing is just expectation, right? So knowing what your client, the seller's expectation is of you. Do they want you to just open the door for them, and are they cool with you just hanging out in the kitchen while they tour? Do they want you following the agent around? What do they want, right? And then once you know what your client wants, you can then turn around to the other agent. And I always recommend talking directly to the agent, say hello to the clients, but your communication should 100% be with the agent. And just letting them know when you let them in the house, hey, the seller, or even before would probably be better. This is going to be an accompanied showing. This is what the seller is requesting. Just go ahead and prepare your clients. Are there any questions, that they have up front, maybe that you want me to make sure I have answers for? So I think it's just all about expectation and communication, and that goes for both sides of the party.
Yeah, I think the key thing that you said there, KB, to make it not awkward is have the conversation before, right? When they schedule the showing, hey, just want to make sure you saw this isn't a company showing. I'll be meeting you there. This is what the seller is asking of me. This is how I'm going to do it. Just prep your clients and let's go have a good showing. Let's get this house sold. Right? That should be the conversation. So great points, Lauren.
As far as something going along with this, controlling sort of your schedule, right? When you have a seller that's requesting this, a lot of times I found that doing like blocks of showings, right? When you need to be there for all of them works out pretty good, right? You're not trying to readjust every time a showing is booked to get to the property. Yes, there may be some one-off, something like that in those cases, but like if you have, evening for a couple hours or a day on the weekend, something like that, it often works out pretty well.
Cool. Anybody else have any comments on accompanied showings? Buy side, list side, KB?
Just real quick, kind of feeding off of what Lauren said. I think that, another thing, if you have a seller that really is interested in a company showings, I think you should definitely be taking advantage of deferring showings to the first open house to try to get as many of them, as you can out of the way during an open house. That way, you're not taking the first week of the listing and going to the property 25 times to show all these buyers' properties if it's a hot one.
Anybody else? One of the other things or ways to just kind of build rapport just kind of goes along with this topic. When you're scheduling a showing, and I think the easy road is just go into showing time, schedule the showing, show up, do the showing, and leave, right? The way to just build a little bit extra rapport is to just make a quick phone call to the listing agent and then to ask that listing agent for, hey, can you give me some information about this property that's not in the MLS? What's one fact? What's one quirk? What's one thing, right? So that when you get there, you know something more than, if you just know what's in the listing, your client knows what was in the listing. Right? They saw it on Zillow, they saw it on Realtor, wherever they saw it. They saw it on the listing alert that you sent. Like if you get there and you have a little bit extra information, man, that just raises your level right off the rip, especially if it's a first showing with somebody. So it's a great way to build rapport. It's a great way to try and help you sell the property. It's a great way to show to your client that you're going the extra mile, that you know what you're doing, that you've got some extra insight, that it's valuable to have you there, right? So, and it's just a quick phone call. Anybody, want to elaborate on that? Or is there anything else that you're doing pre-showing or information you're getting from the listing agent that's helping these showings out? Amber.
I find that a lot of stuff is not on Zillow. You actually have to go into the MLS to get it. So I have clients right now that have been looking for quite a while, and they're actually driving me a little bit crazy. But they look at one house, they don't like it because of X, Y, or Z, and then they show me a house exactly like it. But anyway, so before I even show a property, if they send me a property that they happen to want to see, I dig in. I do call the other agent, and I dig into any disclosures that are there. I go into the firm remarks because a lot of times they won't see that part of it. So, shared driveways, things like that. It doesn't necessarily say it in the description on Zillow. It's not until you pop into that MLS. So I go in and I look at the disclosures. If there's something in there that says, Title V, hasn't been pumped in 10 years or, something like that, I make sure to get that because there's nothing worse than, especially when their time is limited and they only can go out at 5:30 on a weeknight. And now that it's getting dark and we go to the property and they go, oh no. I also ask them, hey, if you see a property you want to, they say they only can go out on a Thursday and it's a Monday or Tuesday, do a drive-by, do a Google map search, do a Google street search, because I can't tell you how many times we get to that house and they go, oh no, this is not where, if we had done it that way. So when I meet with my clients for the first time, I do go over all of that.
And I think obviously don't do this on the first personal showing, right? We want to get belly to belly, but after that, you're saving them time. Right? Our whole job is to add value in this process, right? If you just save them a trip, they're going to say thank you, right? And meanwhile, you just saved yourself an hour and a half, right? By just doing a little bit of extra research, sending them a couple of photos. Hey, I was taking a look at that neighborhood. Just want to make sure you're aware of this or that or whatever the case might be. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Right? KB.
Yeah, I just want to just enforce the drive-bys. Obviously not on personal meeting, but I think that, someone to go and take a look at a neighborhood, not obviously at like a 12 o'clock on a Tuesday when everyone's at work or everyone's at school, but in the afternoon before you go see the house, it gives you a good feel of what the neighbors are going to be like in that area. If there's any strange noises, train tracks, maybe planes flying overhead, looking for those type of things that it's not going to say in the MLS. And if you're not specifically asking the seller, are there planes fly over here? Because I've had clients that have, one client that closed on a property, and nobody really knew that it was like a direct flight path of one of the Air Force bases. So they were a little frustrated, you know what I mean? And I think that the other thing is, if you know an area, right, because we are hopefully market experts in our particular area, and you have a client that's looking at a property, we're not allowed to tell them not to look at a property in an area that we may feel, as our opinion, is not a great area. You can always say, hey, do me a favor, drive by there and make sure that you like the neighborhood, and why don't you go through there during the day and just check it out and make sure that's somewhere that you're going to want to live. Because I think that a lot of times we'll take clients to houses, especially when we're newer, that we already know they're not going to like. And if you can get them there before you're showing, they're going to rule it out for you, and then you're not going to have to take them to a house that we already know they're not going to like.
Yeah, lots of little good tips in there. Amber?
The only other thing that I have done is, especially when you have a client that's, I like to call them serial lookers. They're ready to buy. They just want the perfect house. As if I'm in the area and they have sent me a house, and again, they can't see it for 3 or 4 days, which again, we don't recommend. I'll do the drive-by and take a video, whatever I have to do to say, hey, I saw this one, I really think you'll like it. Even if they didn't send it to me and I'm in the area and I think there's a house that would be perfect for them. I've done, I don't even know how many videos, drive-bys, photos. Hey, I drove by the area and this, and this. So it cost me a few minutes, but it could cost hours if we don't do it that way.
Good. There's another kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, like a theory or just a framework of like killing a deal to make a deal. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of agents are getting nervous to maybe give full disclosure, or man, if they find out that the planes fly over here on whatever on Thursdays, like maybe they wouldn't buy this. Like, I don't know, am I supposed to disclose that? Like, you're always better off just disclosing. And even if it kills that deal, you've now got a lifelong client, right? Immediately it shows that you don't have commission breath, that you are really trying to be helpful, that you're doing what's in their best interest. And so, yeah, you didn't put that deal together, but this buyer wants to buy a house, and they're going to tell the story of, you know what, we were about to buy this house. My agent did the research and she found out that this, that, the other, and we didn't end up buying it. She saved us. Right. So being honest right off the rip, hey, you guys told me X, Y, and Z. This doesn't have X, Y, and Z. You sure you want to buy this? So I think killing a deal to make a deal, if it's the right thing. I mean, if it meets all the buttons and it's the first house, great. But a lot of times, like, they see the first house, they love it. You might want to just say, hey, look, I know you guys love this house, but do we want the first house? Do we want to just look at 5 or 6 more? Right? Just to make them feel comfortable with the process. It's the worst thing when you're coming off with commission breath. And it's difficult, especially if you are new to the business or you're having a down year and you just need to put a deal together. But, doing the right thing is always the right thing. Lauren.
One of the things you had mentioned there, right, the that really resonated was this house doesn't have what you told me you don't like, right? Or this has these 3 things that you hated. I've noticed that happens when a client starts to get frustrated. Either that maybe they've, lost a property or 2. They feel like they've been looking for a long time. And so beyond that, it's just reassurance that like there's no set time frame for everybody. Okay. And that can be different. So if it takes you an extra 30 days and you have that time to spare in looking, that's okay.
KB, you're not quite sure if you want to make
Sorry.
this comment or
Yeah,
not. Yes,
I'm
no.
going. It's freaking Sumner. There's tons of potholes. Every time I try to hit the thing, it bounces. Can you
Okay.
hear me? Okay.
Excuses.
You try driving down this road. It's terrible. So just now I forgot my train of thought. What would Lauren just say? Something she just said. Oh, one of the things, and I feel like I'm talking too much, but one of the things that I've always done, and I think it's super helpful, especially for a newer agent, is when you're doing your buyer consultation and you're having a conversation with them. I've always done the top 10 things. So like a score 10 house is somebody who has 7 of the items that you want on your list, because you're never going to get 100% of the things that you want, right? But then I want to do the same thing with things that are absolutely a no-go with them, right? So like if they're like, I don't want to, I don't want to see a house if it's oil. I don't want to see a house if it's this and that, right? And then it's very easy when you're getting these listings in to show them, to be like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that you remember, right? The conversation that we had previously was that you absolutely needed these 7 things, and this house doesn't have those. And you absolutely said that you didn't want, it to have oil, right? And this house is oil. So before we scheduled a showing, are you sure that this is a property that's going to fit your needs? And to me, oil is kind of like, we can do some research and see if we can get it transferred over. That's fine, whatever. But it's the first thing that popped into my head. But I think that really understanding at that buyer's consultation exactly what they're looking for and what their 100% must-haves are is important. But it's also important to know what they absolutely are not willing to budge on and they do not want. And not being afraid to remind them that that's what they want, and this is the house that they're buying. So
It's good. It's good. I'm gonna take a flip approach on this and say occasionally, especially if you've got a client that is frustrated and they can't seem to get what they want, is to go to them and say, hey, you know what? I know you told me you didn't want a split level property, or you didn't want a raised ranch, or you didn't want X. But man, I just showed this property to one of my other clients. And it meets like a lot of other stuff. Would you guys humor me and just go take a peek at this one? Because I will tell you, I am one of those buyers. Okay. I told myself, after showing homes for, I don't even know how long it was before I bought my first property, but I had been in, hundreds of homes. And I said I would never buy a raised ranch and I would never buy a split level. And my first 2 home purchases were split levels. They were just different split levels than the ones I had seen. I live in a split level today. So I think, if you just see something, you're like, man, this just pretty cool house. It's in the neighborhood they want. It just doesn't have that one thing that they said that they wanted. Just tell them. Don't just show up and have a property that we told you we didn't want raised ranch, right? You've got to ahead of time preface it with, hey, I know you told me you didn't. Would you humor me? Because I just think you guys would love this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. But can we go take a look at this one? Right? Like, I'm telling you, if it works, it's going to be magic. Lauren.
My final thought. I can't tell you how many times that the property in a situation like you're talking about, hey, I saw this one for somebody else, or hey, this really meets a lot of the boxes. I know it's not one you sent. I know it's maybe right on the town line of where you were looking. Let's go look at it. Entertain me for this one. If I'm really wrong, let me be wrong. And it ends up being the one they buy. And then I think just wrapping it kind of back up with everything we've said today is it really comes down to conversations, right? A couple extra conversations here and there is going to build your rapport and just have such a different experience overall with clients, agents, transactions.
You slipped a little nugget in there because I only talked about the property, but you slipped a little nugget in there that you guys got to take advantage too is try a different town. I know you guys were dead set on this town. This is one town over. It's still going to be close to your job. And I just showed it to another client. I think you guys are going to love it. Right. So just going slightly outside of the box, you could find that winner. All right. Great conversations today. Appreciate all the feedback. The big training today is 12 to 1:30. Sharon is doing his business and marketing plan, one pager for 2025. This is a definite don't miss. If you are not with Real and you need the registration link, please DM me. If you are and you're in Western Mass, we're doing a live watch party at the Agawam office. Everybody is welcome, even if you're not a Real agent. Come on and join us for that watch party. Otherwise, I hope you guys all jump on 12 to 1:30 and do it online. So appreciate you guys. Let's have an awesome Wednesday, and we'll do it again tomorrow morning. All right, take care.